When you were writing The Descendants, did you have a gut feeling about how wildly successful it was going to become?
No. No, I think when I'm sitting down writing, I'm just so immersed into the story, and then what I hope for is that it will maybe sell more copies than say 100.
Right.
You know, I pretty much have sort of not a dismal outlook, but a realistic outlook. And the thing is, I mean, I wrote the book in 2007, and it wasn't wildly successful then. It got great reviews in the New York Times, the New Yorker, but books are hard to sell. Every year there seems to be a darling book, you know. And so the film has really helped get the book out there. So I'm really grateful for that.
So in terms of the film, can you tell us how involved you were with the process?
Sure. Alexander came here maybe about almost a year before shooting, and he basically emailed me and said, hi, I'm Alexander Payne. I want to make The Descendants my next film. Can I meet you this weekend? I said, oh, okay. And ever since then, you know, we met and had dinner, and then I invited him over to my house the next day for a party that I was having. And we sort of clicked and hit it off. And I immediately didn't need or ask for any sort of involvement whatsoever. But it turned out that he wanted my involvement, and so we did location scouting together. He asked me about costumes and set design, and I had to talk to his set directors, and he let me cast the cousins who were in the film, and my family and friends were in the film, and you know, I went to set almost every day, mainly just for the awesome lunch. And so, oh, and I read the versions of the script and made my notes on the script, and so I was involved, I guess, in almost every single aspect, but as a friend, not in any sort of official kind of way. I was really interested in helping him when I could, but also seeing what his vision was and trusting it.
So I know that you wrote a screenplay too in 2011, is that correct? No? Okay, that's what I found on the internet. Boy, don't believe everything you hear on the internet. I thought there was something about breaking waves. Is that not correct?
Someone, that's on, what is it even called? IMDb?
Breaking Waves.
No, I am listed there as being the screenwriter of Breaking Waves and Sally Fisher, and I have no idea what those things are. So no, but I have written a screenplay just for fun, something I just finished actually, but nothing that has been, you know, published or optioned or anything like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now we know, don't believe everything you read on the internet.
Yeah.
So I want to talk to you a little more about the book, because in my experience of reading the book, there was so many moments where I was simultaneously laughing and crying in the exact same moment, and I wanted to know if you set out with the intention of having humor in your writing, or if that was sort of a byproduct of finding your voice.
I think it's just my style. I think I'd be hard-pressed to write something purely comical or purely serious and heavy. It's just, I mean, people ask me a lot how I capture the voice of a 50-something-year-old man, and I'm not saying that there's a 50-year-old man in me, but that his voice is sort of similar to my own, and so I don't intend to, I need to make this scene funny and sad, but it's just what the situation often suggests, and I don't think people strive for tone. Tone is just part of you, part of what comes out.
Yeah. Well, speaking of writing from a 50-year-old man's perspective, is that something that you really love and cultivate in your writing, is being able to write from not only different genders, but different age, different perspective? I know also in short stories you do that. Can you talk to me a little bit about the appeal of why that works so well for you?
I think just as a writer, it's a way to explore different voices and different roles, and it changes the plot of your story significantly, determined by who's telling the story. And sometimes I get stuck, and sometimes just changing the voice, changing the character who tells the story can make all the difference when you're stuck on something. And so even with The Descendants, I had it, not originally, but I wrote a few pages in the youngest daughter's voice, and I tried one with, the father was in a coma, and that was the mother's story, and it wasn't until I chose Matt King to be the storyteller, that's when it felt real, and that's when it moved.
Yeah. Is there some sort of research that you do in that type of situation, or is it just purely inspired by observations of sort of the way people interact with each other? Is there a voice also on the other side of that question? Is there a voice that you have yet to sort of touch in terms of like gender or age group that you're looking forward to speaking through?
As far as characters, no, I don't research characters. I don't know how, I for The Descendants, I obviously researched land trusts and some Hawaiian history, but as far as characters, I don't go study, 10-year-olds. If I want to summon a 10-year-old girl, I just trust my own voice and experience and observing people around me and their behaviors, mixed with a lot of imagination. I think characters can do, you sort of set the world for them, and maybe not, for example, when I wrote The Descendants, I didn't have experience having children, and maybe that opens the door a little bit as far as creativity goes, because I was allowed to write these daughters however I wanted to, based on experiences I had and just observations I had. And perhaps if I had those two grown daughters, I'd feel a bit limited by the truth.
Right. Well, actually, I wanted to ask you about that, about how sort of motherhood has it changed the way that you approach anything, or the way that you, approach your daily writing practice, or anything of that nature?
Doesn't change my my writing style, but it changes my writing time. So I work around their schedules completely. They rule. So
yeah.
But I like that as well. I feel like, there's days when I'm like, a male writer would not have to do the carpooling and the washing these dishes and cooking the meal and writing and working. But then there are other times when those limitations, I feel, help me, because it's too much leisurely time for me. I would just be idle, and so I like that pressure and that fire under my ass to get me going and to keep me organized and productive.
That's awesome. Yeah. Multitasking. Multitasking. That's what mothers do. Multitask. So let's talk a little bit about Hawaii, and sort of, for me, and I'm not a writer, but to me, Hawaii was almost another character in the book The Descendants as well. And I want to talk a little bit about how local people reacted to your perspective and insight into the culture here, and just sort of the feedback you got on that.
I got great feedback from both, locals and non-locals. And I think for the strongest reaction was just to be able to see Hawaii authentically portrayed. And even though I didn't write Hawaii in general, I wrote about a very specific family from a specific place doing specific things. So I was in no way wanting to represent Hawaii as in such a broad way. But even just telling that one story, I think it was nice for them to see things they recognized on screen. I was talking to the people, there was a screening for all the people who worked on the film, who are all from here, and they said that, we spend so much time selling Hawaii, and this was the one project that we were sort of proud of. That they were selling an authentic version of Hawaii. So I really appreciate that, not only that feedback, but the opportunities that filming here has given to other people. Writing is a lonely thing, and when I write a book, it's my success, but as the film, it was the success of many. So that was just a wonderful thing.
So I know that rejection is a big part of the process for many writers, and I know it takes a lot of guts to go out there and show your work. And I'm interested in what sort of advice you would like to give to writers that are out there going for it.
I guess, and I'm still a struggling writer. This was my first novel. So even though it seems, I definitely separate my success with the film's success, and I always remember that. So I think my advice is to embrace criticism. I feel like that's really helped me, just whenever you're giving up your work to someone and they give you feedback, you can take it or leave it, but it's good to have that mentality that it's a gift. Criticism is a gift. Someone has taken the time to read what you've written, and I think with computers, everything can be saved. So go ahead and take the risk and make changes and rewrite. I think that's the biggest advice I have for writers, is to not guard your work so seriously, but to revise and rewrite and be willing to make changes and give yourself some space too from your work and see it with fresh eyes. That helps too. And read a lot.
So we're almost done here, but I just want to ask you, what is the next project that we get to read from you?
My next project is, I just got my edits back from my editor, so I'm going to be working on these edits as fast as I can. It's a novel for Simon & Schuster is going to publish it, and it's set in Breckenridge, Colorado. So sort of similar to The Descendants in that it's sort of a tragedy happening in an idyllic resort sort of place. But I'm really happy to just explore this town, and it's told from a woman's perspective, so that's something new for me to tell a story that way. But single mom, and now I'm excited for it, but don't look for it anytime too soon.
Well, I think we should all extend our applause here and say thank you very much for being with us today and everything that you had to say to us. And it was an absolute pleasure to talk with you. And aloha.
Aloha, thank you.